In Dublin, we're experiencing hot weather, record-breaking September, sunny weather outside there for all to enjoy. And I thought, what would put us in a good sunny mood? And I thought a bit of an old-fashioned song would be nice. Then I tripped over Nico Ruse, who I've featured quite a few times on my channel, and even recently. And he's singing Buona Sera, one of my favorites. I always remember the great, infamous Dean Martin, one of the most prolific screen actors, I think, in the black and white films, always in films with songs. And I think Sammy Davis Jr. used to be in them, Frank Sinatra, all that era. And they used to star in films together. So I remember Dean Martin singing this particular song. But it's been brought right up to date in a live version, as we're going to see with Nico. Now, I'm not going to give you any more background to Nico and the voice of Chile, but to me, he is the voice of Chile. He's got an old soul, as we're going to hear. He's singing in English. It's a little bit of a mixture, but we need to get to know the song itself and have a bit of fun with it. Buona Sera was written by Carl Sigman, who was an American songwriter, and Peter DeRose, an American composer of jazz pop music during the era, this is way back everybody, Tin Pan Alley. Oof, I haven't heard that in many years. And best known as performed by Louis Prima, who was an American trumpeter, singer, entertainer and band leader, because years ago it used to be the big bands and then you'd have somebody singing, hosting, plus playing an instrument. Multi-talented they were. So anyway, it reached #1 in the single charts in Belgium, the Netherlands, Norway, and is ranked #3 in the all-time best-selling single chart in Flanders between, this is how far back we're going with this song, 1954 and 2014. It's still ranked as, up to 2014, one of the best all-time selling songs. Now, Prima's track also reached 25 in the UK charts in 1958. Now, Ralph Bendix, who was professionally known as a singer, music producer, composer and songwriter, reached #5 in Germany with the recording of the song in 1958. In the same year, and this is the man that I recognize it for, Dean Martin, who was an American singer, actor and comedian, one of the most popular entertainers of the mid-20th century, and he was nicknamed the King of Cool. He certainly was, and he recorded the song on the This Is Dean Martin album. Now, Acker Bilk's version reached, now he was a clarinetist and he was English, and he did beautiful interpretations and covers in a very silhouette, jazzy, soothing, milk chocolatey kind of music versions of songs. So anyway, he reached #7 in the UK singles charts, and that brings it up to 1960. Now, the song was used for the theme song for the second season of the TV series Platane by Eric Judah, who is a French actor, director, screenwriter and comedian, and extraordinarily handsome and talented. And that was in 2013, so let's keep going with it. I do remember Bad Manners in UK, and they were a ska group. Now, it would take me ages to start explaining what SKA means in the music business, but let's just say it wasn't punk, it wasn't pop, it was kind of in between. And in 1981, this is going back a fair bit now, it entered the UK charts with their version. But today, in 2013, we have this version by Nico, and I am looking forward. It's my channel.
Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking where the the mountains help the sun come into sight. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger, while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Oh, buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Up to lips, do up to lips, bully dally boots, doodly alley boos. Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. Well, it is time to say good.
Take it away, Nico.
Night to Napoli.
So, take it away, Nico.
Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking where the mountains help the sun come into sight. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger, while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Oh, buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Up to lips, do up to lips, bully dally boots, doodly alley boos. Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. Well, it is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Oh, though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking where the mountains help the sun come into sight. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger. Oh, I'll buy a wedding ring for your finger. Come on. Well, in the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Hey, buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Vamos, Quito. Stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight.
You have to give it to him. He's bringing the big band back, and Chile are absorbing and loving, and his concerts are constantly filled. And he is deservingly, in my opinion, the voice of Chile. He's got that, and all of you English people out there now who've heard him in English, hasn't he got the Michael Bublé touch? I'm telling you, I'm so in touch, can you believe, with Michael Bublé's management team at the moment, and I've sent them 4 emails and videos of Nico because I feel Michael Bublé has done such a lot for so many people. I would love him to do a duet with Nico and just elevate this young man into super global stardom that he deserves. I'm so enthused by him. Fantastic rendition. In the morning, Senorita, we'll go walking when the mountains help the sun come to light, and by the jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you I love you. Buenos Aires, senorita, kiss me goodnight. Terry Sigmund is Carl Sigmund's widow. Now 92, she met her husband in... This is past research, by the way, and I'm thinking she's still in the present. If she's not, I would need to research that. But we're going to go with this research. Anyway, Terry met her husband in the late 1940s while working as a personal assistant to Prima. When the songwriter visited Prima's office in the Brill Building in New York City's Tin Pan Alley, when I hear Louis sing Buenos Aires, I get very emotional, she says, during an interview conducted with her son's help. It takes me back to those days at the Brill, where I loved working for Louis and where I met the love of my life. By the time Prima met Carl Sigmund, Prima's reputation was already well established. Born Louis Leo Prima in 1910 to Italian immigrants, he grew up exploring the French Quarter and Treme neighborhoods, where the music didn't erase racial and social barriers, but it frequently crossed them. Prima was influenced by everything from minstrel shows to opera, but especially jazz. When he heard Louis Armstrong, he discovered a major influence on his music and trumpet style and vocals. Whether fronting small combos or big bands, Prima would become as well known for his stage antics and vernacular wordplay as for his musicianship. His humor was especially important when performing Italian-themed novelty songs during a peak of wartime and Italian sentiments. He could turn a word and get a laugh at any time he wanted, said band leader Woody Herman. And then it has a quote. In 1947, Prima, along with other artists, enjoyed hits with satirical Sigmund numbers such as Civilization and the Thousand Island Song. He didn't fare so well 3 years later when he released his first attempt at Buenos Aires on Mercury as a B-side. So imagine this song that is so popular and so well known, and in my case so famous because of Dean Martin, was a B-side. And I'm going to say this to younger people watching. In the old days, we used to have records and there was an A and a B. And not many people would play the B-side because on the A side, that was why you bought the record, to play it on your gramophone or stereo system as it was known in the 90s. And you would play and you would listen. But the B-side, not many. So it was a B-side. I never knew that, to be honest. I never knew half of what I'm reading out here. Anyway, Billboard was right. While overwrought with choir intones, the lyrics behind him, Prima pleads in a mundane spoken interlude. Don't go, Senor. It's not senorita, that's Spanish. So in Italian, it's don't go, Signoria. Kiss me, Signoria. Sigmund's evocative verse drowns in orchestration, and a similar version by Dean Martin a few years later was no improvement. Well, I'm sorry, in this research, I disagree. Dean Martin so improved it. Check it out on YouTube, everybody. The story of Buenos Aires might have ended there, but something about the song must have appealed to Prima because he brought it with him to Las Vegas. In a now fabled 8-year residency at Sahara's Caspar Lounge with his then wife vocalist and comic Keely Smith, and backed by a charging band called the Witnesses, Prima began including Buenos Aires in his late night and early morning sets. In 1956, Capitol Records cut Prima, Smith, tenor sax player Sam, and the rest of the Witnesses live in the studio for what could become Prima's finest and most celebrated album, and it was called The Wildest. Wetra's Jumps Blues arrangements fired up a new version of Buenos Aires that was almost unrecognizable to its songwriter. He was absolutely shocked by it, Michael Sigmund says of his father. I remember him saying more than once, I wrote this nice, simple, sweet love song, and here this guy turns it into something completely different. He was just stunned. The choir was mercifully scrapped. The tune is now launched by a dramatic rhythm and echo of the New Orleans tango belt of Prima's childhood. From there, the tempo shifts to a shuffle, as we heard in Nico's version, until the sax blasts a warning and sends the song careening towards rock and roll. Prima and company take their listeners on a nostalgic path to a neon future, promising both love and unflagging energy. For reasons Michael Siegman can't quite figure out, the reimagined Buenos Aires developed a rapid following in Germany as well as in a number of Eastern European countries, spawning numerous cover versions. It was prominently featured in the 1996 movie Big Night, yet Buenos Aires hadn't fully made its mark as a New Orleans song until the evening. Now this, everybody, is what made it so important. In 2010, when the HBO television show Treme used it as a centerpiece of its premiere episode. It's one of the most effective musical montages ever seen on TV. A DJ rants about New Orleans music cliches, the Big Sad Easy, Crescent City, Care Forgot songs, until he falls at last into the studio chair, takes a deep breath, and flips a switch. With that, Buenos Aires begins, and scenes of the show's various characters roll by. As Prima sings of the Mediterranean, a tugboat chugs up the Mississippi River, and Prima blows his trumpet, and trombonist toots on his mouthpiece for the child's delight. A weary couple shares a bottle of wine, and a rare laugh on the front porch. A Mardi Gras Indian chef surveys his home's damage. A frazzled chef is soothed by a poffered dish of gelato. It's so much information. A bar fight breaks out, and it's New Orleans as a city of grace and heartbreak, simple gestures of affection and the constant threat of violence. Unlike many songs used in Treme, Buenos Aires was written into the original script. The song works historically for New Orleans and for local essence. But Buenos Aires also has a great sense of civic place in the romance of a loved city, says Treme creator David Simon in an email. In the case of the song, it's Naples, as we would pronounce it in the West, which is a port city and has a feel of a romanticized place. New Orleans speaks in the same vernacular for America, but here the imagery of a broken, half-emptied city. So the romance and affection you hear in the song lands as irony, and it's bittersweet. There's yet another way to appreciate, finally, Buenos Aires. This stamina it took Luis Prima to reinvent himself again and again was evident. The stamina it took to play Sahara's Lounge at all hours, the stamina of Sam Butter's sax solo, the stamina that can be required to live in New Orleans. It might be just a song for a city that in its 300th year is encroached upon by war emotions, facing a future that can be generously called uncertain. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you, sings Luis Prima, a promise for our city's meantime, for our all meantimes. That's the history of the song that Nico, who is from Chile, the voice of Chile in my estimation, that old soul came out and he performed it like the big band way that Louis Prima would have been proud of. Congratulations, Nico. I hope you enjoyed all of that. Take care for now. Bye-bye.